Hi, and welcome to this episode of Inside the Mind of an Actuary. My name is Marc Glickman. I'm an actuary, and it's my pleasure to have Luis Kinuthia on the line. He's actually in Kenya. We met on LinkedIn. He's also an actuary across the world. Thanks for joining us today, Luis.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for having me. Yeah, we've been planning to have this for a while, and I'm glad we could be able to do it.
So I'm just fascinated by kind of the world where you are. You're in Kenya, and you work in a company that provides microinsurance. And a lot of people in the U.S. probably have never even heard of microinsurance. So I wanted to talk a little bit about it. So tell me, first of all, how did you get into the actuarial profession? And then we'll get into the microinsurance aspects.
Yeah, I got into microinsurance profession when it was just beginning, into the actuarial profession, sorry, when it was beginning to boom here in Kenya. I got to learn about it when I was in my final year in college, in high school. And so I applied to go to join one of the colleges locally. So the reason I did that is because I was good in math that time, and I was gonna become a doctor. Then I didn't do very well in sciences, so that was like the next option. But when I got there, I was really excited because I got to use my mathematical skills in so many different ways, especially in the financial industry.
Very cool. Yeah, I think you mentioned you kind of fell in love with it, but fell into it. And I think that's how a lot of the actuaries fall into the career path, no matter where you are in the world. My dad was an actuary, so I kind of fell into it that way. But it's great that you joined the profession. I know you're really passionate about it and solving a lot of problems around the world using actuarial science. Tell me a little bit about the microinsurance world. First of all, how did you kind of get into that space, and what is microinsurance?
Yeah, so when I was doing my final project in college, I started doing research, and that's why when I came across many organizations like Microinsure, Pula, and other organizations, and the ILO, who had written a lot of articles about microinsurance, and I got more intrigued into it. And after I was done with my project, I applied to join Microinsure as an intern just to learn more about what they were doing because I was really enthusiastic. Had even designed a product which I pitched to them, and actually that's how I got into the internship.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what is microinsurance for those that are hearing it for the first time? What does that mean exactly?
So microinsurance is basically insurance targeted to the lower kind of bottom of the pyramid, the lower and the middle. These are guys who ordinarily do not have any insurance experience before. They are the type of population who've not been either insured or banked before. The reason microinsurance exists is to protect the most vulnerable, the poorest of the community, from falling into poverty. What you realize, the lives of this kind of population is that it's full of risk every day. They face so many risks than compared to the top 10. They're worried about how are they gonna eat. They're worried about their health. They're worried about insecurity because these are guys like farmers and guys living in the slums. So microinsurance exists to protect these kind of populations who've previously been ignored by the traditional insurance.
Interesting. So it's very small premiums to fit what they can afford, and also smaller benefits. But what would you say is the benefit of buying a policy for those, let's say, farmers that you're describing?
Yeah, well, there are three characteristics that define microinsurance. Number one is a small ticket insurance, meaning small premiums, but that's not really the key defining characteristic. How they access the products and how you package the product in general
Mhm.
is very important because you could have a small ticket, a traditional insurance, make it small. That does not necessarily make it micro. So making it the risk resonate with the customer and making it very easy to access. Those are the very important aspects of microinsurance.
So you're saying the way it's distributed is probably different, right, in terms of how you access the customer themselves, but also how you pay out the claims. It has to be pretty streamlined, I would take it, correct?
Yes. The process of distribution and paying claims is like a totally makeover from the traditional insurance, because most of the time you don't have physical access to these customers, so you have to rely on established channels and digital processes to actually distribute it effectively and sustainably. Then in terms of claim payment, the documents that you probably collect are not the same as traditional insurance. Try to make it easier for these people to actually make the process seamless and less painful to actually claim, so that they can believe in insurance and spread to their communities.
Interesting. So the microinsurance world, even though you may be targeting the lower part of the pyramid, as you said, from a financial perspective, it probably has to be more savvy technologically because of the ability to streamline everything you're talking about. So it may be kind of on the cutting edge of technology. So, tell me a little bit about what is typical of a microinsurance product. Like, what benefits does it provide? You had mentioned, it covers, for example, agricultural types of insurance. Can you kind of give us like an example of what that might look like?
Yeah, so basically what we go for in microinsurance is looking at the most prevalent risks in households. So if you're talking of a normal household in Kenya, the number one primary risk will probably be health. If these are farmers, then they're worried that their crop, if the crop does not do well, they do not have an option B. That's really their only hope. So addressing a key problem in the household is what really differentiates microinsurance from any other type of insurance, because they don't have the luxury of buying educational policy and fancy investment policies. So you're looking to address very key problem into the households. And normally it should be one or two, or you could bundle like three together in one package.
I see. And then what would like a typical policy pay for a family that's just focused on one key risk? Like, let's say they're a farmer and they have crops and livestock and that type of thing. What would like an agricultural policy cover?
Well, like what we're doing with Pula right now and the communities that we're serving, we have a product which is called a germination guarantee. This is a product which is bundled with the seeds or the inputs that these farmers get at the beginning of the season. And more often, due to climate change and variant agroecological zones, you find that sometimes it fails to rain within the first like 3 weeks, and it doesn't rain like 3 weeks, and the farmers had planted. Then you know very well there won't be any germination. So germination guarantee is where we use weather indices from meteorological department to monitor rainfall. And if the rainfall does not fall within 21 days, there's a trigger which goes to their phones, which an SMS comes to their phone and tells them, we notice it did not rain, so your crops did not germinate. Please go back to the agro dealer and collect another bag of seed, so they can be able to plant and still get harvest at the end of the season.
Oh, that is so cool. So, rather than covering the exact risks for that particular family, you've created an index which you can kind of monitor at an aggregate level, and then automatically kind of pay out. In this case, maybe even providing them with indemnifying them for the crops that they had planted in terms of the seeds. And that way, you can kind of streamline the processing of the claims as well, because you don't have to go each family and figure out how they were individually affected. You can just use it based on the index and use that to determine the payout for everybody, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Interesting. And then, distribution wise, I think this is also pretty interesting. Obviously, you need to have a way to educate people, and they may not be the most educated people that you're trying to help protect with these insurance products. How do you kind of distribute it so that people can actually trust, what it is that they're buying and willing to spend money, which obviously they don't have as much disposable income. And so you have to be pretty comfortable with wanting to put the money into the microinsurance products.
Yeah, well, distributing microinsurance products is actually one of the very key elements to get right. Because what you want to do, you don't want to distribute the product individually, because the premiums are low. You can't afford to load the margins of selling and all that. So what we do, we use what we call aggregators, organizations or platforms already accessible to these people. This could be like microfinance, could be NGOs, could even be telecom companies. And these organizations which they already trust, they've already interacted with them. So you use the same channel to embed microinsurance onto it. That way, if a farmer goes to get, say, their sugar in a small kiosk, and then the shop would tell them, hey, do you know you could get a small ticket insurance for you and your family. They're willing to trust when it's coming from people they're already familiar with, or an organization which is in their local region, and they're already familiar with these people. So tapping into these organizations and getting the products onto them is very important.
Oh, that is really cool. So it's a different distribution mechanism where you're going through centers of influence, right? And you're transferring the trust they already have. And so you still have the same process, obviously, but you can do it at more of a mass scale because you don't have to create new distribution channels that way. So that's pretty cool. Well,
Yeah, that's
Luis, I mean, I could talk to you on and on about this. This world is fascinating, and I love the fact that you're helping so many people out there. So we really support your mission here, and I hope to have you on future episodes, and we'll talk about some more topics about microinsurance.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for having me, Mark. I've really enjoyed this particular discussion. These are discussions that we have to keep on going because so many people do not know about it. Even the customers that we are serving still need to be aware of our services in order to access them. So I'm always happy to share knowledge with the rest of the world, and I can have me back anytime.
So appreciate it. Thanks, Luis.
Cool. Thank you so much, Mark.